My middle school, seventh grade daughter just got diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. When the school suggested, really, they demanded that we get her assessed and tested by a psychologist. I'm so worried and upset about the generalized anxiety disorder, and I don't know how to help her. She complains of stomach aches, but the pediatrician has told her and us that they are worry tummy aches. The school is also concerned. She attends a small private school and likes her teachers, but is alone a lot, and she will often not answer questions when the teacher calls on her. They all recommend therapy, and she is refusing to go. Middle school is such a hard time for highly sensitive kids. It's a big period of change, and I think it's really hard for sensitive children and tweens and teens to find their way out in the world. So I guess what I'm going to say about this is, first of all, I think getting a mental health diagnosis is really scary for parents and youth. Generalized anxiety disorder is not hard to be diagnosed with, but it does mean that the anxiety and the overstimulation is happening a lot and has been for a while. It's not just a momentary feeling of anxiety that we all have here and there. It means that it's with the person a good deal of the time, more often than not, frankly. And I think as a parent, as a mom, I have to say that there's nothing scarier or more worrisome than being told that your daughter has a mental illness. Here's what I have to say. I believe that anxiety can become a habit for highly sensitive people, and particularly for highly sensitive teenagers, when also the hormones are starting to kick in and creating overstimulation. So it's important to set up structures to help stop the cycle. Therapy, I agree with the school and the pediatrician recommending therapy. And it's very, very important to find a therapist who is willing to listen to the parents and to learn about highly sensitive teens, highly sensitive children, highly sensitive people, to educate them, to ask them to watch the documentary. The tongue's not working. The brain is, though, I assure you. The documentary is Sensitive, the Untold Story. I think I'll just stop saying that word. You can find it at sensitivethemovie.com. There's also a new movie out about sensitivity, which is called Sensitive and in Love. The documentary is great for therapists and family members. Everyone should watch it to really learn the basics about the trait and to be able to explain it to others. The Highly Sensitive Child by Alane and my upcoming book, The Highly Sensitive Teen, are great resources for how to speak to the school, how to speak to the children, and how to speak to everyone in the community about sensitivity as a trait and not an illness. But the anxiety is real. So there are many different kinds of therapy, and I'm actually not going to recommend one kind of therapy over another, because what I think is the most important is a therapist that is experienced, well-trained, or well-supervised. I have nothing against interns. I supervise interns, and I think they can do great work. But somebody who has experience with anxiety and is willing to learn about high sensitivity if they are not highly sensitive themselves. Here's the deal about therapy. Getting my question up again. I've never met a middle school child who wanted to go to therapy. In fact, maybe I've met a couple of high school students, but for the most part, tweens and teens are not saying, please, can I go to therapy? There's a lot of stigma about it that's negative. Sitting around talking about your feelings is not fun. I'll never forget an 8th grade client of mine, a boy, said, I don't want to be here. I said, where would you rather be? He said, hanging out with his friends. I said, of course you would. Who wouldn't? But therapy is not meant to be fun. It's meant to be work. And if you are not able to function at school or at home, if your life is disrupted by your overwhelming feelings or your sensitivity or your anxiety, if you are disrupting the family's life with your behavior, these are things you can say to your middle schooler, then therapy is not optional. And in the end, you're the parents, and your child does need therapy. And I commend you for asking and for being interested and willing in getting her therapy. The last thing I'll say about this, just looking at the question again, is that you may very well need to change your family structure quite a bit in order to help this child become more balanced in her life. She cannot do as much. Highly sensitive people cannot do as much as the rest of the family or the rest of the world. And so I recommend getting some consultation. You can even reach out to me and have consultation with me about how to shift your family structure and to train your 7th grader to create a life that's compatible with her sensitivity, to recognize what the limits are, and to advocate for herself at school, socially, and wherever she is out in the world.